In the previous video, we have seen that the development of the human being is divided into various stages. And the first stage is the prenatal stage. The prenatal development is the period from the conception of the zygote to the baby's birth. It is considered as an important part of the developmental process. The prenatal development is a time of a remarkable change that helps set the stage for future psychological development. The three stages of prenatal development are the germinal, the embryonic, and fetal phases of development. Before going to the details, please remember to subscribe the channel. Thank you. The process of prenatal development occurs in three main stages: the germinal period, the embryonic period, and the fetal stage. The first 2 weeks after conception is known as the germinal stage. So, from conception till 2 weeks, it is the germinal period. Then from the 3rd week to the 8th week, it is known as the embryonic stage. The time from 9th week till birth, it is known as the fetal stage. The germinal period, the conception occurs when a sperm fertilizes an egg and it forms a zygote. It begins as a one-cell structure. So the germinal period starts when a sperm fertilizes an egg and it forms a zygote. The mother's and the father's DNA is passed on to the child at the moment of conception. The genetic makeup and the sex of the baby are set at this point. The germinal period, about 14 days in length, it lasts from the conception to the implantation of the zygote in the lining of the uterus. So within 14 days, the implantation of the zygote to the uterus will happen. So till that time, it is known as the germinal period. Then from the 3rd week to the 8th week comes the embryonic period. So here the zygote gets implanted to the uterus. Once the zygote is implanted, the embryonic period starts. So it lasts from 3 to 8 weeks. Upon implantation, this multicellular organism is called an embryo. Here it was called zygote and here it is known as the embryo. Now the blood vessel will grow, forming the placenta. The placenta is a structure connected to the uterus that provides nourishment and oxygen from the mother to the developing embryo via the umbilical cord. Through this cord, all the nourishment and the oxygen from the mother to the embryo is passed. The most sensitive period in prenatal development is the embryonic period because internal organs are being created. The growth during the prenatal development occurs in two major directions: from the head to the tail and from the midline to outward. Then comes the fetal stage. This is the 3rd stage. When the organism is about 9 weeks old, the embryo is known as fetus. So, till 2nd week, it was zygote. Then when it is get attached to the uterus, it will be known as embryo. And after the 8th week, it will be known as fetus. At this stage, the fetus is about the size of a kidney bean and it begins to take on the recognizable form of a human being and the tail begins to disappear. So these are the 3 stages: from conception till 2 weeks. That is till the zygote is get implanted. It is known as the germinal stage. Then from the 3rd week to the 8th week, it will be the embryonic stage and the organ will develop during this stage. And from the 9th week, the fetal development will happen. It includes the sensory experience, learning, etc. So we have seen that the fetal stage begins at the 9th week. Then during the 12 weeks, the sex organs will get differentiated. During the 16th week, the fingers and the toes develop. Then during 20th week, the hearing begins. Then the 24th week, the lungs begin to develop. Then during 28th week, the brain grows rapidly. In 32 weeks, the bones will get fully developed. The muscle will get fully developed during the 36th week, and during the 40th week, there will be a full term development. During the 36th week, the fetus is almost ready for birth. And by week 37, all of the fetus organ systems are developed enough and it could survive outside the mother's uterus without many of the risks associated with a premature birth. The fetus continues to gain weight and grow in length until approximately 40 weeks. By then, the fetus will have only very little room to move around and the birth become imminent. The prenatal development is important because it is the crucial period when babies develop important cells, structures and part of their bodies they will continue to use for the rest of their lives. So the prenatal stage, the prenatal development is very important. Premature birth, the age of viability. What is it? When the fetus is born prematurely, usually it takes 40 weeks for the baby to get fully developed and then the delivery happens. But if the baby is born prematurely, then the baby would be able to survive outside the mother's womb. That age is known as the age of viability. Not all the babies survive with 22 to 26 weeks, yielding the lowest survival rates. Once the baby are at the age of viability, they can survive if born prematurely. So the age at which a baby can survive outside a mother's womb is known as the age of viability. The prematurely born baby is also known as a preemie. Is considered a baby born before 37 weeks of pregnancy. We know that a full-term baby is carried for 40 weeks. When a baby is born before the 37th week, then it is known as a prematurely born baby. A baby born between the weeks 32 and 36 is a moderate. The baby is born between 22 to 32 is very premature. And the baby is born before 28th week is extremely premature. So even in the premature birth, it has 3 stages. Like the baby born before 37th week is premature baby. The baby born between 32 and 36 week, moderate to late premature. From 28 to 32, it's very premature. And if the baby is born before the 28th week, then it is extremely premature. The mother's health is an important feature of pregnancy, and if the mother's health is poor, it could cause the baby to be a prematurely born baby. If a mother is experiencing abuse, if there is lack of nutrients, or if there is any stressful life events, then that can put extreme pressure on the prenatal environment, and it could lead to a prematurely born baby. If the mother's health is at risk, the doctors perform a cesarean section to deliver the baby before it reaches the full term. Concurrently, the mother's age is a factor in the birth of a child. While getting pregnant at an older age is a risk for the mother and the baby, and it can lead to premature birth. We know that the prenatal development stage is very important, and the health of the mother plays an important role in the prenatal development. Usually, the development follows a normal pattern that we have saw in the previous slide. There are times when problems with the prenatal development can occur. For example, disease, malnutrition, or other prenatal influences. And these things can have powerful impact on how the brain develops during this period. Various factors that affect the prenatal development are genetic factors and environmental factors. One of the reasons for a baby being born with a disability is its genes or the combination of chromosomes. For example, Down syndrome. The infant born with Down syndrome have an extra chromosome, the chromosome 21, which attached itself during the conception of the zygote. The mothers who become pregnant before the age of 18 and after 35 are at higher risk of giving birth to a baby with Down syndrome. Then Tay-Sachs. It is also a genetic disorder. This disease causes the child to have difficulties breaking down fatty matter in the body, leading to buildups in the spine and brain. Then comes the Marfan syndrome. It is a genetic disorder. People with this disorder are usually tall and lean and have especially long limbs and fingers. And they may have either a concave or a convex chest. Then cystic fibrosis. This disease causes the body to be unable to regulate mucus and sweat production, leading to a buildup in key areas of the body, the lungs and the internal organs. Then comes environmental factors. A teratogen. Teratogens are harmful substance the mother ingests, and it can lead to harming the baby. Any harmful substance the mother uses go through her blood, the placenta, the umbilical cord, and to the baby. It can be drugs, alcohol, or any other teratogens or any harmful substance. So these things can affect the baby during the prenatal stage. Now let's have a quick recap on what we have learned about the prenatal stage. We have seen the germinal phase. It is the first 2 weeks after conception when the zygote, the fertilized egg, begins the process of cell division. Then comes the embryonic phase, the 3rd to the 8th week. During this time, the major organ and body structure develops, and the zygote becomes an embryo, and hence it is known as the embryonic period. Then comes the fetal phase. It is the 9th week until the baby is born, when the development of all organs and the body part continues, and around 22 weeks the baby enters the age of viability. That is the age at which a prematurely born baby can survive outside a mother's womb with the help of modern technology. The mother's health, the prenatal environment, multiple babies, and the mother's age are factors for a baby to be born prematurely. Then the combination of genes or extra chromosome can lead to genetic deformities such as Down syndrome, Tay-Sachs disease, Marfan syndrome, or cystic fibrosis. If the mother ingests harmful substances like drugs, alcohols, or any other teratogens, when pregnant, she puts her baby at a higher risk to be born with disabilities. So we have learned all these things. Hope you like this video. Please subscribe and share. Thank you and keep smiling.